The hallway was packed with students, their laughter echoing off the lockers, when a sudden shove sent a small, quiet girl stumbling backward. She hit the cold metal of the locker with a harsh clang, her books scattering across the floor. Everyone paused, expecting her to shrink further, to vanish beneath the weight of ridicule. But then, something shifted. A fire flickered in her eyes, a calm, unassuming intensity no one had noticed before. The bullies smirked, certain they had her cornered. Little did they know, the next moments would change everything. Could someone so quiet really turn the tables and leave the entire school speechless? She was always the quiet one, the girl who preferred the edges of the classroom and the back rows of the cafeteria. Most days, she moved through the halls unnoticed, her backpack heavy with books, her eyes focused on the ground as if trying to disappear entirely. Teachers barely remembered her name, and students often overlooked her presence, except for the few who thrived on tormenting anyone they saw as weak. At home, she was careful, polite, and diligent, spending hours practicing karate in the living room, though nobody at school suspected. It was a normal Tuesday, just like any other. But the tension in the air that morning hinted that something was about to break. Something that would test every ounce of strength she had been quietly building. The first shove had been subtle, almost casual, but the girl felt it like a jolt of electricity. She tried to steady herself, brushing her books off the floor, but before she could, another student stepped closer, blocking her path. Their eyes gleamed with cruel amusement, and a sneer twisted across the leader's face. The cafeteria chatter faded into a blur. It was as if the room had shrunk, leaving only her and the circle of bullies closing in. Each movement they made was deliberate, predatory, designed to humiliate, to make her feel small and powerless. Her heart pounded in her chest, adrenaline surging, as hands reached for her backpack, yanking it from her shoulders and sending its contents flying again. Papers, notebooks, a forgotten lunch bag, all tumbled across the cold tile floor. Laughter erupted, harsh and mocking, echoing off the walls. For a fleeting second she wanted to shrink into the floor, to vanish entirely, to escape the stares, the judgment, the fear. But there was no escape, not yet. A kick to her side sent her reeling against a locker. Pain shot through her ribs, sharp and unexpected. Her breath came in short, ragged gasps, but something in her refused to break. Memories of hours spent in the living room practicing kata, of her father's stern instructions on focus and control, flashed in her mind. Every punch, every block, every disciplined movement she had learned over years was there, waiting. And she realized she didn't have to be invisible anymore. One of the bullies grabbed at her hair, tugging sharply. The girl's knees bent instinctively, her hands moving in fluid, practiced motions. Her arms blocked and deflected with precision, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers of disbelief brushed her ears. Each bully who tried to overpower her found themselves countered, their confidence faltering with every swift, controlled movement. The air felt electric, every eye in the cafeteria fixed on the quiet girl who suddenly wasn't so quiet anymore. Just when it seemed the balance of power had shifted, the leader lunged at her with reckless force. The girl braced herself, heart hammering, knowing this next moment could decide everything. Would her training be enough? Could she protect herself without letting rage take over? The cafeteria seemed to hold its breath as the two collided in a flurry of motion, the sound of books sliding and chairs scraping forgotten in the tension. And then, a sharp, decisive move, one that no one saw coming, sent the leader staggering back, his smirk replaced with shock and uncertainty. The leader of the bullies recovered quickly, rage flashing in his eyes. He lunged again, faster this time, determined to humiliate her completely, to remind everyone that she was just the quiet girl. But she stood her ground, every muscle tensed, every breath measured. The cafeteria felt impossibly small, the noise of chairs scraping and whispers fading into the background, leaving only the pounding of her heart and the predator's approach. The moment stretched, seconds feeling like hours. He grabbed her wrist, yanking her forward, and for a heartbeat she stumbled. Fear threatened to break through, the same paralyzing panic that had gripped her in smaller incidents before. But then, instinct and years of disciplined training surged through her. In one swift, fluid motion, she twisted, blocked, and used his momentum against him. He staggered back, eyes wide, disbelief frozen on his face. The cafeteria erupted. Gasps, shouts, and the low murmur of astonishment filled the room. The other bullies froze, unsure whether to intervene or retreat. Every student watched as the quiet, unassuming girl moved with precision, her calm focus unshakable, each action deliberate, each defense perfect. She wasn't fighting out of anger. She was asserting herself, reclaiming her dignity in front of everyone who had doubted her. And then came the final moment, the move that changed everything. With a controlled pivot, she disarmed the leader, sending him sprawling onto the floor. Time seemed to stop. Silence. Even the principal at the edge of the cafeteria froze, eyes wide in shock. The bully's laughter, once cruel and triumphant, had vanished entirely. For the first time, the quiet girl was seen, not as weak, not as invisible, but as someone no one could ever underestimate again. Her chest heaved, adrenaline still coursing through her as she stood there, surrounded by the stunned faces of classmates and teachers alike. She had survived the storm, and in doing so, had rewritten the rules of her world. But as the echoes of the encounter lingered, one question hung in the air. Would this victory finally end the torment? Or was the real test only just beginning? The chaos in the cafeteria slowly settled, whispers fading into a hushed awe. The quiet girl gathered her scattered books, her hands still trembling slightly from adrenaline, but her eyes shone with a newfound confidence. For the first time, she didn't feel invisible. She had faced the worst of the bullying, the cruelty that had followed her day after day, and emerged not broken, but stronger. Students who had ignored her before now looked at her with respect, some even with a hint of admiration. The bullies, humbled and shaken, kept their distance, their arrogance replaced with caution. At home that evening, she reflected on what had happened. The fear and humiliation she had carried for so long had not disappeared, but she had discovered a power within herself, discipline, courage, and the refusal to be defined by others' cruelty. The incident was more than a personal victory, it was a statement. In a world where injustice and prejudice often go unchecked, where quiet voices are overlooked, she had taken a stand. Her strength was not just physical, it was moral, a reminder that dignity and resilience can shine through even the harshest adversity. And yet, the story doesn't end with a single victory. It is a reflection of a larger truth. Countless children face daily torment, marginalized for who they are, overlooked by those who could protect them. Her courage serves as a spark, a testament to the power of perseverance and self-respect. But it also asks a hard question. How many others endure in silence, their strength unseen, their stories untold? As the school year continued, she moved through the halls differently, head held high, shoulders squared. And while the scars of bullying would never fully fade, neither would the lesson she had learned. That even in the face of cruelty and injustice, one person can stand firm, reclaim their power, and change the world around them. So the question remains, when injustice comes knocking, will we stand silent, or will we rise?